بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. First, I congratulate you for arrival of the month of the Hajj and for the wedding anniversary of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Lady Fatima Salamullah alayhima. Inshallah, today we continue our discussion and inshallah complete the discussion about akla and shurb. I want to introduce to you and read few lines from this book, Mustanadul Urwat al-Wuthqa. We talked about this before, but I thought it's good to see it actually. So the late Ayatollah Khui Rahmatullah alayh, mashallah, for tens of years he taught Kharaj Fiqh and Kharaj Usul. So he discussed many books, many kitab, many sections of fiqh. Kitab al-Ijtihad wa Taqlid, Kitab al-Tahara, Kitab al-Salat, Sawm, etc. So some of his teachers prepared taqrirat. We have at-Tanqih for example, Ijtihad wa Taqlid and Tahara. We have also Mustanad. Sawm is in Mustanad. So if, for example, you go to the beginning, this is the book, Mustanadul Urwat al-Wuthqa, Kitab al-Sawm, محاضرات زعيم الحوزة العلمية آية الله العظمى السيد أبو القاسم الموسوي الخوي دام ظله العالي الجزء الأول. Sawm has 2 volumes, and the one who is مقرر is الشيخ مرتضى البروجردي. So this PDF is also online and I can share it with you. So we go to, normally in Arabic books, the table of content, they put it at the end. So for example, you go at the end, you have the table of content. Right now, what we are discussing is here. Page 101. هل يجب التخليل لمن يريد الصوم. So we go to there. That was where at the beginning I had put. So what you see, the main text is Al-Urwatul Wuthqa by Sayyid Kazim Yazdi, Sahib al-Urwa. Then the footnote, which is a smaller font but can be sometimes taking most of the page, or sometimes maybe even go to the next page, is Taqrirat of Ayatollah Khui. It means that the students, for example in this case Sheikh Murtaza Burujerdi, after attending the lectures, then they wrote this to report what he said. And it is very interesting that some of them were not writing in the class. Some were taking notes, but some were not writing. And when they go home, they write, and some they had such a good memory, mashallah, like Ayatollah al-Uzma Shubayri Zanjani, who is alive may Allah inshallah prolong his life, and all the maraja and ulama, I heard from his son that when something finished, because he was waiting for his teachers to finish, because for example, when you are discussing something, maybe today you say something, tomorrow you say something, the third day you come back and discuss something about the first one. Dars Kharij is very dynamic, so he was waiting for the whole discussion to finish and then write it. He had such a great memory, and of course they were very much aware of the riwayat, of the rules, etc. They were, mashallah, great. May Allah increase their likes. So this the footnote is taqrirat of Dars of Ayatollah Khoui rahmatullah. So Sahib al-Jawahir says, after he talks about some other issues, for example about is akl ghayr muta'araf is problematic, etc. Things that we have discussed. So he reaches this point: لا يجب التخليل بعد الأكل لمن يريد الصوم. After eating, for example, for iftar, for sahari, before fajr you are eating. After eating, there is no need for making sure that nothing remains between the teeth. For someone who wants to fast, this is not wajib. وَإِنِ احْتَمَلَ أَنَّ تَرْكَهُ يؤدي إلى دخول البقايا بين الأسنان في حلقه. Even if he or she thinks that maybe if I don't do takhleel, if I don't with for example brush, etc., don't clean what is inside the teeth, maybe something goes down. Maybe during the day something comes out and goes down. It's muhtamal. If he says maybe, Sahib Orwa says no problem. وَإِنِ احْتَمَلَ means even if احتمل أن تركه يؤدي إلى دخول البقايا بين الأسنان في حلقه. And even if later it's known that actually something went down, or in Qiyamah, we realize that something has gone down, no problem. وَلَا يَبْطُلُ صَوْمُهُ لَوْ دَخَلَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ سَهْوًا. And if something goes down through the stomach, goes to through throat, goes to stomach, unintentionally, no problem. During the day later, maybe when he's asleep, etc., something goes down. Naam, this was ihtimal. Naam, لو علم أن تركه يؤدي إلى ذلك. But if he or she is sure, knows that if I don't do takhleel, it would certainly lead to دخول بعض الأجزاء في الداخل في الجوف. Something goes inside. If you know, وجب عليه, then must do takhleel. خب, this is a taklif. And the reason for this taklif is to make sure that you have done your wajib. But if later is not known whether something has gone inside or not, you cannot say fasting is batil. He had to do this, but maybe didn't go. He knew, but later maybe he doubts that maybe didn't go. But if later also his opinion doesn't change and he is sure that something has gone inside, بطل صومه على فرض الدخول. His or her fasting is void, conditional upon going inside. Okay, this is Sahibul Urwa's fatwa. And then Mas'aliyya Thaniya starts, which is about, your bosaq, as being swallowed, which we discussed before. So Sahibul Urwa had only for this issue 3 lines and 1 word, but then you see Ayatollah Khui says, number 1, لا ريب في عدم وجوب التخليل على الصائم بما هو تخليل. Takhleel as such is not wajib. Why? لحصر المفترات في أمور ليس منها ترك التحليل. Those things which break fasting are listed: أكل، شرب، تعمد الكذب على الله ورسوله، الجماع، الاستمناء, etc. ترك التحليل is not one of them. And then he expands if it is probable, if it is certain, etc. So you see for this page, next page, 2 pages he discusses this issue. Okay, now we go back to our own book. I just wanted to familiarize you with this because also Sheikh Irvani refers to Urwa, and also in general I think it's good that you are used to this. In the Hawza, sometimes what they do is this. Not everyone does it, but it's a nice thing. First, when you go in the first year, because it takes time to reach Fiqh, Istidlali, and studying Lum, etc. In the first year, they teach you Ahkam in Farsi, if you are Iranian. If you other people maybe in their own language. Second year, then we study Tahrir al-Wasila, or at least in our school was like this, which was nicer style. Risala in Farsi is brief and it has its own style. Not everyone can understand Risala if they are not trained. Risala, and then Tahrir, and the third year Urwatul Wusqa. This is a very good way that you get used to it. Alhamdulillah, in the Hawza we studied something from Tahrir al-Wasila about Ijtihad wa Taqlid, if you remember. But we didn't study Urwatul Wusqa. Now, sometime we refer to it. Maybe some books we can study from Urwatul Wusqa, so you get used to it, inshallah. Let's go back to our text. Let me see if it is visible for you. You can see now Al-Fiqh al-Istidlali, yes?
It's clear on our side.
Clear?
Yes, it's clear on our side.
Okay. Number 6. This is the last issue in Kitab al-Sawm, the discussion about al-Aklu wa-Shurb. This is the last point about Aklu wa-Shurb. هل يلزم تخليل الأسنان قبيل الفجر? Is it necessary to clean the space inside your teeth to remove any remaining parts of the food shortly before Fajr? Why he says قبيل الفجر? Because we are not talking about, for example, after iftar, and then if you are going to have, suhoor, because definitely when you are going to eat again, something will go inside. We are talking about after the last food. Qubayl al-Fajr is not by itself very important. The main thing is after the last thing that you eat. Yeah? And normally we had suhoor before Fajr, so he says Qubayl al-Fajr. So that before Fajr starts, you are ready. لا بد أولا من تقديم مقدمة. لا بد means it's inevitable. It is a necessity. It's a must. We must first mention a muqaddimah. Taqdim means in advance, before going into any discussion about the topic. We have to say something as a kind of introduction, which is general. It's not about only eating or something which is inside the teeth. About muftarat in general. Hasiluha means hasilu al-muqaddimah. So the main point, the summary of muqaddimah is this, that we want to discuss. أن ارتكاب المفطر لا يوجب الفساد إلا في حالة العمد. To commit an action that breaks fasting would not make fasting void unless it is intentional. It's done deliberately. This is a general point, general introduction. Why? Why, if someone does one of the muftarat unknowingly, unintentionally, why it's not a problem? Generally speaking, we are talking generally because there can be exceptions. Len nusus, because we have some texts. Ahaduha, when we say text, means either Quran or Hadith. In this case, it's Hadith. Sahihatu Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Mutaqaddimah. Means as-Sahihatu al-Mutaqaddimah li Muhammad ibn Muslim. The Hadith of Muhammad ibn Muslim is the Hadith that the last narrator was Muhammad ibn Muslim, which was discussed before. It was about 11 pages before, so we go back to see that hadith. You remember this hadith? Sahihatu Muhammad ibn Muslim and Abi Abdullah alayhi salam. La yadhurru as-sa'ima ma sana'ah idha ijtanaba thalatha khisalin. الطعام والشراب والنساء والارتماس في الماء. If someone, this ijtinab is important, please remember, because we have discussion about ijtinab. If someone avoids, ijtanaba means avoided. If someone avoided, refrains from three things, then it's not going to cause any problem, any harm to his fasting, whatever else he does. Of course, this is hasr idafi. Hasr is sometimes haqiqi, sometimes it's idafi. If hasr idafi means it's a kind of relative issue. It's not that everything is listed and then every exceptions are excluded. It's idafi. Now the focus was on three things. Eating and drinking as one thing, marital relations second, immersing in water third. But what is important for us is the verb which is used for all these things is ijtinab. You should do ijtinab. Okay, now let's go back to these things. Okay, so Sahihatu Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Mutaqaddimah. Now you know what we are talking about. فَإِنَّهَا عَبَّرَتْ بِالْإِجْتِنَابِ. What we have in this hadith Sahih was إِذَا اجْتَنَبَ ثَلَاث خِصَالٍ. خب, اجتناب is happening here or not? When someone does muftarat unintentionally, this is the question. He says huwa, meaning ijtinab, sadiqun ma adam ta'ammud al-muftir. If someone has not deliberately done something which is breaking fast, which breaks fasting, we can say ijtinab has happened. Ijtinab has materialized. If someone does something intentionally, like intentionally eats, no ijtinab. He cannot say ijtinab has been done. No, he has not done ijtinab. He hasn't avoided if it is done intentionally. But if it's not done intentionally, his niyyah is not to eat, not to drink, not to do these things, but it happens. فَإِنَّ مَنْ تَعَمَّدَ الْآكِلِ لَا يَصْدُقْ أَنَّهُ اجْتَنَبَ عَنْهُ. If someone intentionally does akl, eating, doesn't yasduq, la yasduq, it doesn't happen, doesn't apply. This is not true that he has avoided from akl. He has avoided akl. No, he didn't avoid akl. He didn't refrain from eating. أَمَّا مَنْ لَمْ يَتَعَمَّدْهُ. But someone that as much as he was able, he was aware, he was conscious, he was making decision, he didn't want to eat, he didn't want to. من لم يتعمده يعني لم يتعمد الأكل فيصدق عليه ذلك يعني اجتناب. فلا يتحقق الإفطار. So iftar, breaking, has not happened. So why then there is no problem if it is not intentional? Because ijtinab has happened, and the question was ijtinab has happened or not. If ijtinab has happened, then iftar has not been happening. So there is no problem here. You can question the whole issue of muqtazi, because there is no iftar here. So why we should say it's a problem? Why we should say, for example, he has to do qadha, etc. للقصور في المقتضي بلا حاجة إلى دليل خاص. We don't need any specific reason. What we have in Sahih Muslim, it's enough for saying that if it is not done intentionally, it's not a problem. This is enough. But we have, of course, even things which go further, like the third and second hadith. ثانيها صحيحة الحلبي عن أبي عبد الله عليه السلام سئل عن رجل نسي فأكل. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked about a man, a person that forgot and then ate. و شرب, also drank. So he had his food, he had his drink, water, etc. After eating and drinking, ثم ذكر, then he remembered that I was fasting. Imam alayhi salam said, لا يفطر. he is not doing iftar, and he is not also supposed to keep eating and drinking thinking that, okay, my fasting is finished, is damaged already. La yuftaro can mean two things. One is that by doing this he is not breaking fast, or from this point on, la yuftaro, he shouldn't do iftar, means he keeps fasting. إنما هو الشيء رزقه الله. It was his rizq to have today this food, this water. It was his rizq. Although it was months of Ramadan, but this was his rizq. Because whatever you eat is your rizq. Yeah, remember the issue of discussion about qadha wa qadar. Someone asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that, for example, this, I don't know, was apple, or I don't remember exactly. Is this a qadha and qadar that I eat or not? And he wanted to hear from Imam and do something else to defeat Imam alayhi salam. Imam said, if you eat, then qadha and qadar is that you eat. If you don't eat, it depends, because your free will is part of the illat tammah. In any case, this is rizq. فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ, he should complete his fasting and it wouldn't cause any issue. ثالثها صحيحة زرارة عن أبي جعفر عليه السلام. The third text that we have, nusus, we said, means text, scripture. صحيحة زرارة عن أبي جعفر عليه السلام. زرارة sometimes quotes from Imam Baqir, sometimes Imam Sadiq. المحرم يأتي أهله ناسيا. Someone who is in ihram should avoid marital relation, whether it's ihram umrah or ihram hajj tamattu. But if someone forgets, قال لا شيء عليه. Imam Baqir said, according to this hadith, there is no issue, because muhrim also in certain cases, if he does what is haram, has to give kafara. إنما هو بمنزلة من أكل في شهر رمضان وهو ناس. Because this is like someone who has eaten in the months of Ramadan while is forgetful. Not that we are doing qiyas, we are not doing qiyas. We are aware, Imam is teaching us, because Imams and the Prophet don't need qiyas because they know the ruling. They are teaching us that the illah, I say illa because a technical term. We say al-illatu imma mu'ammimatun or mukhassasa, or al-illatu mu'ammimatun or mukhassasa. If you know the illa, not hikmah, the illa, the cause, the real cause for hukm, you can extend or restrict based on illa. I always make this example. If doctor says la ta'kul al-rumman فَإِنَّهُ حَامِض, don't eat pomegranate because it is sour. So he's explicitly saying that al-illatu li-hurmat al-akl or li-adam al-jawaz al-akl. Of course, doctor cannot prohibit from a religious perspective, but can say this is wrong, you shouldn't do it, and then if you know it's harmful for your health, becomes haram. Anyway, the reason for this advice of doctor is فَإِنَّهُ حَامِض. So we know that to be sour is a problem. So if something else is hamid, you shouldn't eat. For example, there's orange which is sour, so I shouldn't eat. There is pomegranate which is sweet, no problem, because it said فَإِنَّهُ حَامِض. He didn't say لا تأكل الرمان because Roman has some things that are bad for you. Just that فإنه حامض. So if you know illah, you can then go by illah and extend or restrict. معممة or مخصصة. تعميم or تخصيص. Imam alayhi salam is teaching us that in these things which are haram, and then if you do it there is kafara, the condition is to do it intentionally, not that if you forget. خب باتضاع هذه المقدمة نقول في الجواب. Our muqaddama is not complete. What was muqaddama? Muqaddama was that if you do something unintentional, no problem. And حاصلها, remember here, أن ارتكاب المفتر لا يوجب الفساد إلا في حالة العمد. This was muqaddama. خب, alhamdulillah, this is done. With 3 hadiths we established this. Now we go back to our own issue about whether takhlilul asnan before fasting starts is necessary or not. Sheikh Irwani says وباتضاح هذه المقدمة نقول في الجواب لو ترك المكلف التخليل فتارة يجزم بدخول شيء إلى جوفه فيما بعد وأخرى يحتمل ذلك. Because we studied Urwatul Usqa, now you understand why he's making this distinction, why he discusses in 2 phases, in 2 conditions. Sometimes mukallaf doesn't do takhleel while is certain, yajzimu, jazm means qat' yaqeen, is certain that something goes inside. Jawf means inside. Fima ba'd, later on, means بعد عدم التخليل. وأخرى, there is no jazm, يحتمل ذلك. So we think that maybe this happens. خب إن جزم لزم التخليل. If he is certain that something goes inside, he must do takhlil. ولو لم يفعل ودخل شيء وجب عليه القضاء والكفارة. If he is certain and still doesn't do takhlil, and something دخل شيء means دخل شيء في جوفه, وجب عليه القضاء والكفارة. He must do qada and he must also do or kafara or give kafara, depending on his fasting or giving it'am. Why? لأن المطلقات الدالة على وجوبهما على الأكل شاملة له. Because those reasons which are mutlaq are not restricted, mutlaq opposite muqayyad, which says that yajibul qadha wal kaffara if you eat. Yeah, we have text which says that if you eat you must do qadha and also do kafara or give kafara. So those mutlaqat would include such case. لأن المطلقات الدالة على وجوبهما على الأكل يعني وجوب القضاء والكفارة على الأكل. Those مطلقات الدالة على وجوبهما على الأكل شاملة, this is خبر, له, they include such person who was sure that something is going inside and still didn't bother. Ijtinab, which was in Sahih Muhammad ibn Muslim, also has not happened. وعدم الصدق مثل عدم لأن المطلقات ولعدم صدق الاجتناب المأخوذ في صحيحة ابن مسلم يعني محمد ibn Muslim في المقام. In our case, in this issue that he was jazim and didn't bother, ijtinab has not happened. Also, what we had in this muqaddimah, for example, if someone forgets and eats, Imam said, no problem, razaqahullah. We cannot say this person who didn't bother about brushing his teeth or cleaning and was still, jazim, but still didn't bother. We cannot say razaqahullah. Or we cannot say he's nasi, any forgetful. So takhlil in the condition that this person is certain is necessary, and if something goes inside, he must do qada and give kafara or do kafara. هل يختص وجوب القضاء بما إذا دخل شيء إلى الجوف? Is necessity of qada exclusively for the condition that something actually goes inside? Maybe it is never established that something went inside. Or for example, goes inside at a later point. For example, would it be from that point on broken, or from beginning is a problem? You may wonder why I say from beginning, because as we will see, some people like Sheikh Irwani have the idea that these people have a problem with their niyyah, because they know something is going inside and they don't bother. In any case, هل يختص وجوب القضاء بما إذا دخل شيء في الجوف? Is necessity, is obligation of qada exclusive to knowing that something has actually gone inside? ذهب في العروة إلى الأول. Said Kazim Yazdi has gone to the first option, that yes, something must go inside. والمناسب الثاني. But Sheikh Ibani says what is suitable is to say no, doesn't need to go inside. Why? بناء على أن نية القاطع توجب الإفطار. You remember we had a discussion, is niyatul qat' a problem or niyatul qati' a problem for continuity of niyyah or not? We had discussion about this. He says if we say niyatul qati' tujibul iftar, for example, someone makes niyyah of eating. After makes niyyah, maybe takes some time till he eats, or maybe actually goes out and doesn't find anything to eat. But niyyah of eating, niyyah of something which is qati' means he breaks the fasting. If we say niyyatul qati' is breaking, is muftir, this person even before something goes inside his jawf has broken, because has niyyatul qati'. You may say, no, he didn't have niyyatul qati'. He says, yes, he had niyyatul qati'. How? He says, because he knew that something was going inside and still didn't clean his teeth, didn't brush and use a stick, etc. to toothpick to clean it. he has not done imsak, he has not done ijtinab. In his niyyah there is problem. So before reaching inside there is problem. لعدم تحقق نية الإمساك في مجموع النهار. You need to have niyyah that from Fajr till Maghrib I want to do ijtinab, I want to do imsak. Imsak is like ijtinab. This person knows that something is going inside and still doesn't bother, so doesn't have the niyyah of ijtinab and imsak. خب هذا كله إذا جزم بدخول شيء إلى الجوف لو لم يخلل. Yeah, this was, we said, here. فإن جزم. Okay, now. أما إذا احتمله. But if he says maybe something goes inside, maybe he doesn't know, cannot say definitely. Maybe it goes, maybe it doesn't go. Al-Ula. There are two issues that we want to discuss. هل يجب التخليل? The answer is كلا. No. Why? Because to say takhlil is wajib, we need dalil. We don't have dalil. So we go for براءة. أصالة البراءة. كل شيء لك حلال حتى تعرف أنه حرام بعينه فتدعه. لعدم الدليل فيتمسك بالبراءة. So we should appeal to براءة. Or even more, bal is for taraqi, you go higher. Not only there is no dalil, there is dalil for adam. So not only we don't have reason for saying it is necessary, we have reason for not being necessary. بل الدليل على العدم. What is dalil for adam? For adam وجوب التخليل. What dalil you have? الاستصحاب الاستقبالي لعدم الدخول. You know istishab. Yeah, I had wuzu at 10 o'clock, for example. In the morning, 10 o'clock, I made wuzu. Now it's time of salat. I don't know whether I slept or not, whether my wuzu is continuing or not. If you know that you made wuzu, you have yaqeen at 10 o'clock, for example, you made wuzu. And you have shak that whether you slept or not. You were sleepy, but you don't know whether you slept or not. We say, لا تنقض اليقين بالشك بل انقضه بيقين آخر. Unless it is certainly known that you slept, you assume that wudu is continuing. This is istishab. But what is istishab istiqbali? This example, which is very classic example, is about the past. Wuzu at 10 o'clock has happened, and now 3 hours has passed. For example, it's not 1 p.m. It's the time of salat, for example, in summer. So everything is about the past up to now. But istishab istiqbali is about future. This person, when is Fajr, nothing has gone inside. Yeah, it's just beginning of Fajr. It's not that when Azan was being said, something is going inside. So, nothing was going inside. And he is not sure that 1 hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, up to Maghrib, something is going inside or not. So we assume that nothing is going inside because the previous condition was that nothing was going inside. Nothing went inside. So we do istishab istiqbali. Up to Maghrib, you can do this istishab. So, if you are satisfied with Adamud Dalil, you do Bara'ah. Otherwise, we have also dalil ala al-adam. خب, this is the first mas'ala. We said هنا مسألتان الأولى هل يجب التخليل. We discussed. We said no, there is no necessity. Question 2, okay, takhlil is not necessary, but if something went actually, now you cannot do istishab if something went inside. إذا دخل شيء إلى الجوف فهل يتحقق الإفطار. Has iftar, has breaking happened? Sahibul Urwa has gone for the opinion that no, there is no iftar. Iftar has not taken place. ذهب في العروة إلى العدم وقد يستدل عليه بما تقدم. And maybe people argue for this position from what we have just said, that if, in this muqaddamah we said, for example, if there is no intention, there is no deliberate attempt, ijtinab has happened. Yeah, if he knew that something was going inside, ijtinab has not happened. But this person had imsak, had ijtinab. قد يستدل عليه بما تقدم من صدق الاجتناب بعد عدم التعمد. Or for example, razaqahullah or nasin. For jazm we said no, but for here he didn't know that it's going to happen. Sheikh Irwani says we cannot use these three for someone who was aware that it may happen. Yes, he was not sure, but he was aware of the probability. أن الوجوه الثلاثة لا تأتي هنا بعد احتمال الدخول احتمالا معتدا به. And there is a considerable chance. If it is 1 in 100, 2 in 100, no. But if it is a considerable chance and still he doesn't do takhlil, we can say that this person is not nasi, this person is not able to say this was rizq. In qult, if you say, okay, I want to use also istishab, you use istishab, I want also to use istishab. In qult إنه بجريان استصحاب عدم الدخول ينتفي وجوب التخليل. If someone says, okay, at one point something has not gone inside. For example, I just finished my suhoor, azan is going to start, I know that something has not got inside. My worry is that maybe during the day, there's a ihtimal that maybe during the day something goes inside, especially when I'm, for example, sleeping, etc., or busy with something. So, when something has not gone inside, I can do again istishab istiqbali and say something is not going inside. So this condition of not anything going inside can continue. إن قلت إنه بجريان استصحاب عدم الدخول ينتفي وجوب التخليل. Therefore, takhlil is not wajib. If it is not wajib, فلا تفريط في تركه. So if it is not wajib, so if you don't do takhlil, it means tark takhlil, means if you don't do takhlil, there is no tafrit. It's not that you have done, tafrit. Tafrit means you have fallen short in doing your taklif. Ifrat means you have done too much. Tafrit is too little. So we cannot say this person was careless that he didn't do takhlil because istishab helps him. So he has done ijtinab. Sheikh Irwani says istishab here doesn't work because this is asl musbit. I think once again I discussed this. In Usul al-Fiqh we discussed this. Normally our fuqaha or ulama say asl musbit is not hujjah because istishab is hujjah in umur shar'iyyah. Please listen carefully. Istishab is hujjah in umur shar'iyyah, religious matters. Either it must be a hukm or mawdu'ul hukm. For example, you can continue with istishab assuming that wujub is still there. Like for example, I had taklif, I don't know I have performed my taklif or not. I have to assume that it's to continue. Or mawju, this was for example najis, this water was mudaf and najis. I don't know it has become core or not, but I can assume that it's still qalil till it is proved it's core. This is mawzu' hukm, although to be qalil or to be core is not shar'i as such. How much water is here is not shar'i. Either it is certain number that we need for core or less. Yeah, it's not shar'i, but it's mawzu' for hukm shar'i. Is it today beginning of the month or not? This by itself is not shar'i, but it's mawzu' for hukm, many religious rulings, mawzu' hukm shari. So in these two cases we can do istishab. But asl musbit is different. Asl musbit is that something that hukm shari has not belonged to it, but if it is established, it can bring some ahkam. Like what? Someone was alive. You want to do istishab to say he's still alive. And then say, okay, if he's still alive, then for example, you know, if I owed him something, for example, still I owe to him, not to, for example, giving to wadrasa, etc. For example, so, or for example, weather was cold, I want to do istishab that it is still cold, so I don't, you know, put put on summer clothes when I go out. This is asl musbit, means you are using it for establishing a fact. Istishab is valid for religious matters. So most of ulama say asl musbit is not hujjah, and here he says you are using this for establishing what? That dukhul has not taken place. If you were talking about ijtinab has happened or has not happened, for that, you know, you are using istishab, yes, but for dukhul, no. So alayhi bina'an ala hadha, based on what we said, ma'al ihtimal al-mu'tadd bih yajib al-qada. Sahib always said with ihtimal no problem, but he says if there is ihtimal and this ihtimal is considerable, is mu'tadd bih, yajib al-qada. If it goes inside, qada is wajib. Wa ma'al jazm, and if he was sure, he was certain, kafara is also wajib. So even also maybe for when he was not sure, but later he becomes sure that something has gone inside. Maybe he wants to say this as well. But certainly when from beginning he was sure that something is going inside, qadha and kafara are needed. When there is little chance that it goes inside, no qadha and no kafara. When there is considered, for example, 50-50 or 60% chance, 70% chance that it goes inside, Sheikh Iwani wants to say that here also this person should do qadha and kafara. This is about akl and shurb. Inshallah, next session we will start another muftarat. But I thought maybe we go to the fifth one. The third is about jama. The fourth is about istimna. It's difficult to discuss it, especially online. So we go to fifth one. Ta'ammudul kasb. If someone intentionally tells lie about Allah and the Messenger of Allah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you have any question, any comment.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. No questions from my end.
Alhamdulillah. Please do mubahasa. It's very helpful if you do mubahasa, and inshallah it's a practice for also usul al-fiqh, because many rules of usul al-fiqh also keep coming. Okay, if there is no question, we can end. Dua Faraj. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكن أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. التماس الدعاء please.